Well, everybody, it seems like Bryan Fahey is finally being held accountable for his actions. Or is he? Now, don't get me wrong, we the people, we do have some wonderful news that recently just came out. But at the same time, we have some relatively bad news, which is just as heavy as the good, and the main reason why is because it showcases a major double standard between government officials, police officers included, and regular private citizens. And in order for you to understand why that is, allow me to give you a bit of context as to what has happened between Sean Paul Reyes and Bryan Fahey. This all started in one of Sean's very first audits taking place in Connecticut, particularly at this airport. This is where he was unlawfully detained, placed in cuffs, and had his ID forcibly taken from him, under threat of arrest, of course.
Multiple people have come up to us asking what you're doing.
There's a TSA supervisor who just told me I was well within my rights.
Please?
Sir, let's
Put
see
your
it.
hands behind your back, please.
I'm going.
Put your hands behind your back, please.
Sir.
He proceeded to go to the Connecticut State Police to file complaints against that bicycle cop who unlawfully detained him in the first place. And he was doing this with none other than Bryan Fahey. And keep in mind, this took place all the way back in 2021. And as they were finishing up, just because Sean dared to kindly tell Bryan Fahey to get back to work, having no ill intent behind his words whatsoever, Fahey immediately went hands-on with him and threatened him multiple different times.
So you're gonna stand here with your cell phone on?
I thought you were busy. I thought you were a busy man.
I am busy.
So you should get to work.
I should get to work? Is that what you're telling me?
If you're busy.
We're gonna have a problem between you and I, definitely.
His body camera's on.
Eventually, Sean filed a complaint with Internal Affairs, and they investigated the situation and found no legal wrongdoing, as expected from Connecticut State Police. He paid a visit to the State Police barracks a second time, and as he did so, because Bryan Fahey was never held accountable in the first place, he decided to assault Sean once again. And after Sean filed a complaint with Internal Affairs once again, a second time they declared he committed no legal wrongdoing. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. So because Sean did not get any justice because of what happened to him the several times he dealt with the Connecticut State Police, he decided to file a lawsuit against them. And during this lawsuit, there was a whistleblower within the Connecticut State Police who stated that Bryan Fahey and a couple other people are abusing overtime to make over $70,000. Some claims even say $80,000 from Bryan Fahey in particular. Therefore, based on these claims, Sean and his cameraman, his previous cameraman, paid a visit to Bryan Fahey's residence on Friday, July 11th, 2025 in Groton, Connecticut. Their intentions were to conduct an interview with Bryan Fahey about these allegations. Try to get his side of the story, if you know what I mean. And even though we don't see any no trespassing signs on that property, and even though the police report claims that what was censored in the video was a no trespassing sign, and considering the fact the cops are legally allowed to lie to people, I do not trust them as far as I can throw them. And even though Sean did comply with Bryan Fahey's demands to leave the property as he was retreating back to public property, Bryan Fahey came out of that house with a pistol in hand, basically threatening his life while calling 911, even though he didn't directly threaten his life, committed several crimes such as disturbing the peace, disorderly conduct, and first and second degree threatening, and of course, spat into Sean's mouth. All of the evidence stacked against Bryan Fahey, and the Groton PD showed up, accused Sean of several different crimes, including but not limited to voyeurism, and arrested him and his cameraman. A few weeks later, Sean pled not guilty, his cameraman quit the channel and went into therapy because of what happened. Frankly, I do not blame him a single bit. It must have been absolutely devastating to be involved in this. And to this day, he is still fighting the charges. Oh yeah, did I also mention that they gave Sean a $70,000 bond fee? That's going to be important to bring up later in this video. Several interactions later with other public servants regarding this incident later, and finally we get to the good news. Bryan Fahey was arrested less than 2 months after this incident.
Ladies and gentlemen, We got him.
Whoa, 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 hold your horses there, buddy. It's not the kind of charges you think he got. Now, right after this happened, Southern Draw Law made a video in regards to what happened here. And he broke down the crimes that Bryan Fahey committed perfectly. First and second degree threatening, disorderly conduct, and disturbing the peace, as well as reckless endangerment. But even with all the evidence stacked against Fahey, the only charge that they gave this man was disorderly conduct. And not only that, but he was given a criminal summons and not straight up arrested with a $70,000 bond. This right here is the double standard I'm talking about. Bryan Fahey was the perpetrator in every single situation involving him and Sean Paul Reyes. That, along with the fact that allegedly he used to be a drug dealer. A former Connecticut state trooper who was also a drug dealer. Really doesn't help his situation with him potentially committing embezzlement with overtime. There's a lot of claims stacked against him on that as well, and they're still not investigating that. Well, I take that back. The FBI claims that they're doing so, but we haven't heard anything from them either. But like I said, this is the double standard that I'm talking about when it comes to Bryan Fahey or really any other police officer in America. We've seen cops all over the country commit first-degree murder and get away with it. Just ask Philip Brailsford or Michael Kinsley. If Bryan Fahey was any other person who wasn't part of the government in any sort of way, they wouldn't have just given him a slap on the wrist with a criminal summons. They would have taken him to the county jail, processed him with mugshots, and given him all those charges stated by Southern Draw Law. This man deserves to spend several years in prison for everything that he did. And the only charge he gets is disorderly conduct, which is only a misdemeanor in the state of Connecticut. And yet Sean is still fighting charges of felony voyeurism among many others. Him and his previous cameraman alike. This is not true accountability. This is just the state of Connecticut trying to shut us up and appease us. Well, I don't know if any public servants from Connecticut are watching this, but if you are, the bare minimum for appeasing the rest of us is making it to where Bryan Fahey is charged and found guilty of first-degree threatening at the very least. That psychopath needs to be a registered felon and have all of his weapons taken away from him. After all, if you are a felon or an ex-felon, you cannot own any weapons in America. If they at the very least did that, then I personally would have been satisfied with this conclusion. But as the old saying goes, too little, too late. That is why we are still going to leave contact information down below to the Groton PD, as well as many other different places involved in this for all of you to hold accountable. Make sure to be as respectful as can be if you decide to redress your grievances, but similarly to what the acronym of our channel says, let them all hear our roar. Not only that, we the people, but please make sure you go subscribe to Long Island Audit, help them reach 1 million subscribers, and let them know that recognizing our rights said hello. Make sure to check out the description, the pinned comment, or this QR code on screen to get started with Attorney Shield, and use our promo code of ROR1776 upon checkout to get your first purchase 10% off. That way you can have an attorney on speed dial to protect yourselves, your family, and your pets, assuming you have them, from tyrannical and corrupt public servants. Aside from that, everybody, thank you once again for tuning in. We sincerely hope you enjoyed these updates, and never stop loving the good old Constitution.